is cloud is essential for the success of IoT. So we have seen in the cloud component, like one of the component of the component of IoT. So one of the component of IoT is cloud. So if you'll recall the components of IoT, so there are you can see here there are 5 components of IoT. One is things or devices, right? These are called wireless sensor network. Here sensors are, or the sensor nodes are attached to the thing or the object, and the responsibility is to generate the data related to the thing or the devices. The data will be communicated to the gateway node. Now the gateway node is connected to the internet, so it will collect all those data and send this data to the cloud. Now in the cloud, we do 2 type of work. One will do storage, another will do the processing of those data. So the data will be processed using some analytical algorithm or analytical tools, like some machine learning or AI tools. We'll apply those tools or the algorithm into the data and get the result. And the result will give to the user through the user interface. So maybe with the help of the web application or mobile application or some sort of messages like mobile messages, simple text messages or WhatsApp messages, we send those results, right? Now here the cloud is important component of IoT. Now the question is it necessary for the success of IoT, we have to put the cloud, or the cloud is necessary for the success of IoT? This is the question. So is cloud is necessary for the success of IoT? So the answer is yes, it is necessary, but it depends upon the applications also. So if we required the computing infrastructure to process those data or to store those data, and those servers are there with you, means it is in premises, and if you are using those servers and taking the computing resources of it or storage resources of it, so the question is, do we require the cloud, right? So the answer will be no, I don't require the cloud, because whatever cloud is giving me, it is there with me when I am creating the IoT infrastructure. But the thing is that for different applications, we need to have the cloud infrastructure or some sort of computing resource facility, which can able to process the data and store those data. For the success of IoT, or you can see the whole business model of IoT and how the IoT infrastructure is created, the services which are provided by the cloud is very much helpful to fulfill our requirement. Okay. So the question which says that the cloud is essential to the success of IoT, so the answer will be yes. At some extent, we need the cloud facility for the success of IoT. For the minimum requirement, yes, with the help of the servers or with the help of the high computing power, we can reduce the requirement of cloud. But the thing is that Once we require those data should be available 24 by 7. That data should be accessed from anywhere by the user. So to fulfill those type of requirement, we need the cloud facility, right? Because we know that what is a cloud. So cloud is nothing but a computing resource which are there somewhere remotely, and we can access those computing resources through internet, right? So it will give us the access globally. So anybody, anywhere can access those data, can get the results, can communicate anywhere in the world. So that is the advantages which are provided by the cloud. Now let's talk about cloud little bit, because in this we are learning some associated technology related to IoT. And we know that the cloud is directly connected to IoT. So let's talk about it. So it says that the cloud is a huge interconnected network of powerful servers that perform services for business and for people, right? So that we know that it is providing services for businesses or for the individual people. So we also can get the services provided by different cloud service provider, or the firm or the company or any business organization can also get the services provided by the cloud service providers. Generally, something that happen in the cloud is an activity that take place over an internet connection instead of an device itself. So it says that whatever we are talking about, something is happening in the cloud, it means that it is happening somewhere remotely and we can access it through the internet connections, right? And what are the services a cloud is going to provide us? So we have three type of services: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, right? So what are those? Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, right? Now, just see the connectivity with the IoT here. For much of IoT, the head rather than the brain is the system in the cloud. So whatever the computing resources we required, it work as a head or the brain, right? Because it can able to store the data generated by the IoT, and it can able to process the data generated by the IoT. So here, the sensors and the devices collected data and perform actions, but the processing, commanding, analytics, also known as smart stuff, typically happen in the cloud. Typically happen to the cloud. So see, the servers or the computing resource which is there on premises or which are there remotely, both will do the same thing, right? But the thing is that for the other purposes like the accessibility at 24 by 7, the global collaboration of different users or the devices could only be possible through the cloud. That's why cloud is very essential component of IoT. And it is generally providing three type of services as it is shown here: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Now let's see what are these three things. Then we'll go to the next slide. So first we'll talk about, uh, let's say, infrastructure as well. We'll start from here. Now what is infrastructure? Infrastructure means the cloud service providers, like any cloud service provider. Let's say I'll name some of the cloud service provider like Amazon Web Services, Google Web Services, or Microsoft Web Services. All those cloud service providers, if they will provide you the hardware, if they will provide you the hardware means They will provide you the networking. They will provide you the RAM, the memory. They will provide you the storage, the hard drive. They will provide you the processing capability, maybe the CPU or the whatever core you require, right? So they will provide you all those things. And what is your responsibility? Your responsibility is to install the operating system on those hardware, install your application, whatever you required on those hardware, which is provided by these service provider. You need to put the data on it. You need to put the algorithm on it, or other application, other related application, whatever you required, you have to manage. So in the infrastructure as a service, they will give you the virtual machine, right? They will give you the virtual machine, or you can say they will give you the whole hardware. Okay, whole hardware. And it is your responsibility or the user's responsibility is to upload or the load or install the operating system, the related application, the data, everything you have to install there. And this infrastructure as a service is very much famous services provided by the cloud service providers to different big companies, to different firm, to government organization, as well as you can also make your own machine if you want, right? So that is infrastructure as a service. So some of the name of the services are EC2. EC2 is provided by Amazon Web Services. So what is EC2? EC2 is an example of infrastructure as a service. The full form of EC2 is Elastic Computing Cloud. EC2 means ECC. That is a full form of ECC. So what is it? Elastic Computing Cloud. That is the service given by Amazon Web Services, and it is an example of infrastructure as a service. If we'll talk about Microsoft, there is a Azure. Microsoft Azure is also an infrastructure as a service. Then in the Google also, Google Cloud is also providing infrastructure as a service. Means they will give you the virtual machine, depend upon your requirement. Second is platform as a service. Now in this, they will give you, they are going to manage the hardware, right? Like infrastructure as a service. But along with that, they are going to manage the operating system also. They are going to manage some basic applications also. What is your responsibility in the platform as a service? Your data and related application, analytical application you have to put. That is called platform as a service. And this platform as a service is very, very much popular among the developers who develop the software or who are doing the research, right? So Kaggle is a platform provided by Google, is a platform as a service where they will give you the CPUs, GPUs, depend upon your requirement. You just have to put the data set. You have to use some algorithm, machine learning algorithm on that data set. So they will provide you all the computing facility, all the hardware and all. You doesn't have to bother about the operating system, the related application. You just have to bother about the data and the algorithm which you use to process those data. That is platform as a service. Now come to the last one, which is called software as a service. In this, you doesn't have to bother about anything. Means everything will be managed by the cloud service provider. The hardware will be managed by the cloud service provider, the operating system, the data, the application, everything will be managed by the cloud service providers. They will give you the thin client type of UI in which you put your username and password, and then you can enter into that. The example of software as a service is email services, right? Email services. Or you can see at some point of time, the Google Drive, okay, that is also coming under software as a service, where you put your everything will be managed by that. You just have to put your data on it. So it comes under software as a service. Sometime it is comes under platform as a service. So it is that type of services. Then you might have known about online game, right? So what happened in the online game, like very famous game which is right now banned in India is PUBG, right? So what happened in the PUBG is people will load or install the PUBG client side application in their mobile. They log in into the PUBG and they will connect to the cloud, because we know that PUBG is a very complex game, right? There are so many things, so many battleground, so many weapons are there. You can talk to your friends. Friends can be connected, right? So for that type of facility, we require the cloud, right? So that is an example of software as a service. We doesn't have to bother about the hardware, what hardware we are using, what operating system we are using, what application program we are using. We just have to have the client side or thin application in the mobile phone, and we can connect to the cloud and we can use it, right? If we'll take another example of software as a service, is just like you can open your account in Oracle. So if you don't want to install the Oracle in your system, what you do is you just uh, go to the website and open the oracle.com. You can log in there and you can do the SQL operations there. You can create the table, you can write the query, everything you can do. That is software as a service. Are you getting it? So the software as a service is very much popular services among all those. And infrastructure as a service is also, but it is costly because whole virtual machine is given to you. So generally, to upload to get the web application or web pages, or let's say my website, if I want to load, so I'll use infrastructure as a service. Sometime, if I'll take the example of some of the companies like Netflix. So Netflix is in Amazon Web Service. So Amazon Web Service is managing the Netflix. Their requirement, the infrastructure, the hardware requirement will be fulfilled by Amazon Web Services. So it is an infrastructure as a service they are using, Netflix. And they're having the team which are managing those content, the Netflix, but the hardware part is managed by the cloud service providers. That is infrastructure as a service. Then platform as a service, as I told you, it is very famous among the developers, software developers, or the researchers. And software as a service, I told you, the application like email services, your whole uh, social media services like Twitter, Facebook, and all those the social media services are the example of software as a service. Online gaming, right? You're using some sort of software. You doesn't have to purchase the license. Just go to the site and you can use those softwares. And depend upon your usage, they will charge you. So this is how the three services are. We'll see in detail in the third module when we learn the cloud. So we'll see in detail all those services and we'll try to understand it. So the question is the cloud necessary for the IoT? So the answer we have already been given. Like for some application, yes, it is very much essential. And in some application where we required the computing resource should be available to all the user 24/7. On that particular case, yes, it is required. But the application where we doesn't have to have the need the connectivity with the user all the time, we do not require it. So the technically answer is no. The data processing and the commanding could take place locally rather than the cloud via an internet connection, known as fog computing or edge computing. So with the help of fog computing or the edge computing facility, if we create it locally, we doesn't require this. This actually make a lot of sense for some IoT application. But the thing is that for most of the IoT application we required. However, there are substantial benefit to be had using the cloud for many IoT application. Choosing not to use the cloud would significantly slow the industry due to the increased cost, right? So importantly, cost and scalability are not the only factor. This brings us to the more difficult questions. And it may be like all those the thing. That's why we require the cloud. Is the cloud desirable for IoT? So the answer is yes, it is desirable. Is it necessary for IoT? No, it is not necessary for IoT. We can use the in-premises uh, servers to fulfill the requirement of storage and processing, right? But is it desirable, or it is essential for the success of IoT? So the answer is yes, it is required for different application where we need those requirements. So what is that? So far, we have only been discussing the benefit of using cloud for IoT. Let's briefly summarize them before exploring the concerns. So what are those? Decrease cost both upfront and infrastructure. So when we use cloud, it will definitely decrease the cost, because initially to uh, put the fog computing, put the servers, put the edge computing devices into the cloud infrastructure is very costly, right? And this will be decreased when we use the cloud. Pay as needed for storage and computing, right? So whenever we required those storage, whenever we required those computing, we just pay for that. If we do not require, we doesn't pay for that. So it is very much convenient for the user. High system scalability and availability. So as I told you, cloud is available 24/7, and the scalability also can be done. But when we use servers in premises, so what will happen is those fog computing or the edge computing, if let's say we are increasing our IoT infrastructure, we are increasing our IoT devices, so we required some more computing resources, and we want to add some more computing resources, so we have to purchase some more servers, right? So managing to scalability is very difficult. But here, because we are using the cloud facility, cloud already have those infrastructure, they will they are also having the algorithm to add up in a fraction of seconds. So scalability is very much easy there. Increase lifespan of battery powered sensor devices. So what will happen is when these sensors or the devices, if they are battery powered and we are choosing them for processing, if we are choosing them for storage purposes, like the edge computing facility, if we are providing, and if they are battery powered, so it is very difficult to manage their lifespan, because they have to store, they have to process the data, and it is taking a lot of power, right, to store and the process the data. So that was the problem when we use those infrastructure in premises and try to fulfill the requirement of cloud using edge devices or fog computing facility. Availability to aggregate large amount of data, right? It is the advantage of cloud that we can aggregate the large amount of data in the cloud, because the resources in the cloud is infinite. Anything with an internet connection will become smart, that we know that. So if we connect anything to the internet, it will become smarter or the smart. So we say the and we need the IoT which work as a smart uh, application. We worked in different smart applications like smart city, you can say smart home, smart agriculture, right? A smart retailing system, or a smart vehicle management system. So all the smart stuff we need to do. So we need these type of facility. So that's why the cloud is desirable, or the cloud is necessary for the success of IoT. There are some more uh, facility like remote processing power, lower the entry bar of providing who lack infrastructure, analytics and monitoring, smoothen inter-service or intra-device communication, user security and privacy. That is also the advantage of cloud. These are some cloud service providers. You can see here, Amazon Web Services, IoT platform. These are all cloud service provider related to IoT. Okay. So Amazon Web Services IoT platform is for that. Microsoft Azure IoT Hub, IBM Watson IoT platform, Google Cloud Platform, ThinkSpeak, Oracle, Salesforce, Bosch, Cisco IoT Cloud Connectivity, Connect, General Electric, Predict, and SAP. So all those are the example of cloud services related to IoT. So you can see here, there are very big companies like Amazon, Microsoft, IBM, Google. You see here, Oracle, Cisco, Bosch. They all are the part of the cloud service provider business.